How can you have a constitution that says you have a right to life, but at the same time, we're not going to give you any measures to defend that life? The disarming is all about making sure that you will be unarmed the day they come for your property.
So are they not really actually achieving their objective?
We are dealing with a communist government. Isn't there some law somewhere that says you're entitled to have a gun? I said, there's no such law, otherwise I would have quoted it. There is no such law.
Our law states that we have to follow international law as well. They say property cannot compare to life. And you're not allowed to take life in order to protect property. I think in Canada, they even went so far as if a person breaks into your house, you're not even allowed to beat him up to protect your property.
The life of the innocent is given preference over the life of the aggressor. That is our constitutional law. In paragraph 57, they tell you exactly what the doctrine of the stare decisis principle is. And that doctrine says that all lower courts are bound to the higher court, to the highest court, which is the constitutional court as far as constitutional matters are concerned, and the SCA as far as other matters are concerned. Even the constitutional court, Richard, is bound by this judgment. There are more illegal guns in this country than legal ones. I do not think for one moment that the gangsters in Mitchell's Plain and wherever they are here in the Cape Flats and all over the country, that they're going to give in their guns. They're not going to give in their guns, and they're going to assert that power that they're now doing in the gangster values. They will do it all over the country because nobody will be able to defend themselves.
Ladies and gentlemen, we just want to thank you once again for joining us. Today we have an absolutely amazing guest that is joining us, Advocate Murphy. I think that the topics we're going to reach into today, I want to obviously ask him about this new proposed amendments to the Gun Act. I think that's important. And we also, just in general, going to discuss where we fit in this country as to what is happening and where do more conservative people fit into the future of this nation. We do see a tendency, as we've heard with previous guests, a tendency towards a more centralized form of government and a more centralization of power. But is that going to work? I don't know. Let's go to our guest today, Advocate Murphy. And how are you today? And welcome.
Richard, yes, sorry if I have to apologize to the viewers. I'm sitting in the Karoo in a bit of a storm wind. Yeah, it's bitterly cold. We've had snow in the mountains at the back here, and we've had some very good rain, so we're very grateful for that. Yeah, that's on the positive note. Even the storm wind is on the positive note, considering what we're dealing with in our country at the moment. Yeah. We are in a bit of a seriously storm in the country, and it is, Richard, it's obviously not working. A lot of things are just simply not working, and we know most of the reasons can be put squarely on the back of the governing party, the ANC. They're just making an absolute mess of running this country, and unfortunately, they're not taking advice from anybody. They're not looking for advice, and they somehow seem to be sitting on cloud nine, and they think they're doing a hell of a job. In my view, they're doing a job from hell, not a hell of a job. That's my point of view. But then, of course, I am a conservative guy, and that would explain my view, I suppose.
Well, if we look at it, though, from a political point of view, I mean, we have various dynamics when it comes to politics, and the political realm is covered by conservative, liberal, socialist, communist, and we know that the tendency of the ANC is to lean more towards the left and lean more towards an environment of centralization of power. So are they not really actually achieving their objective? Do you think that it is not part of their plan at the end of the day to bring about a society that is more dependent on a state than a society that's more independent? So to say that they're not listening to the advice of others and all that sort of thing, would that not be an incorrect statement, and more so that they're actually achieving their objectives of a socialist communist environment?
Richard, I think you've just said it. We are dealing with a communist government. The sooner we face it, the sooner we come out and broadly speak out against it. I mean, we hear people sort of hinting, that we're going about things the communist way. We are dealing with a bunch of communists that are running this country, and they're running it exactly like the communists do. So yes, they are achieving their objectives. This is why we've seen a flurry of control measures in the last few months coming out. It's the Perpetua Act, it's the Gun Act, it's this act, it's amazing. Everything is about control, and everything is about shifting power to them. And I mean, this whole thing about expropriation without compensation, it's all about taking everything, putting it in the hands of the government, which is communism. Now, what amazes me is it's failed everywhere else in the world. What on earth make them think that it will work in this country? This is probably the least likely country where communism will work because of a million reasons. But yet these people are on that track and they're going forward like a steam train. And unfortunately, that train is heading right down disaster alley. I cannot see their moves at all working. And sorry, it's a bit of a long answer, but it happens. You're an advocate, so you should know. We tend to give long answers. I was listening to, I don't want to jump the gun because it's an issue we have to discuss a little bit later on. The judgment where Zuma was sent to jail that came out yesterday. I listened to that judgment and it sounds so holy and so wonderful about how wonderful our constitution is and so on. But if you see how this government is going about this constitution, then I say to myself, do the constitutional judges or justices, I mean, we call them justice these days, do they actually know what's going on in government and what government is doing to their constitution? Because they are destroying the constitution. Nothing remains of that constitution. In fact, like the justice that gave the judgment said, if they don't send Zuma to jail, they may as well throw the constitution away. I think they may as well do it the way the government is going about issues like this centralization of control and so on. But unfortunately.
But don't you think that if we look at the topic that you've just raised around the Constitutional Court and all those sort of things, and the constitutionality, I mean, we've seen many of these processes started when it comes to communist states. I mean, we're even seeing it in many Western nations at the moment. If you look at rule of law in England and places like that, or let's say rule of law in America, where we've seen these riots that are taking place, and where those that are in charge of those areas where these riots are taking place with BLM and those, there's no law and order. I mean, they do nothing about it. Is this not part of the plan to create chaos so as to introduce a new system? If you want to get rid of a system that is in place, you have to break it down in order to introduce the new. So is this not just part of those processes to ensure that the rule of law does disappear, so that the new law can be brought in, and the new law of draconian measures in order to get rid of people's rights, and in order to ensure that they are subservient to an all-powerful state? I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Richard, I was one of the guys that over many years has spoken about the role of organizations like that promote the one world order. Let's say it out, and all the Bilderbergs that goes with that, the Illuminati that goes with that, and people when you spoke about it in the past, people looked at you and there's a conspiracy theorist. I've had that label so much around my neck that I feel like a conspiracy. The fact of the matter is, those are factual issues that we can see is now happening, and we saw it in the Trump area when he was speaking about and warning against things, and he was made out as a liar, as a this, as a that, as the worst person that's ever been around. And now the truth is coming out. All of a sudden, we now see and realize, and all of a sudden, it's clear now that the China virus that President Trump was referring to is indeed a China virus, because it was developed in a lab in Wuhan in China. And the sooner this comes out and this is published in the world, and the sooner there's major court cases against China for the destruction and the killing of millions of people across the world, the better. We've got to start facing these issues. We have to get out. But unfortunately, all our governments, like our own government, they are all in cahoots. The English government, the French government, the German government, they are all in cahoots. But what amazes me, Richard, as an individual, and sometimes I think it's because I sit between the mountains, and my nearest neighbor is 7 kilometers away from me, and I'm a totally in a different kind of a world. And I think to myself, why do we allow ourselves? Why does millions and millions of people allow ourselves to be governed by morons, by dictators, by communists? Why do we allow it? What is it in our beings that we can sit back and say, all right, let it go, let's let it go? And I mean, just look at this gun law. I mean, that is such a ridiculous law that if I didn't know any better, and if I didn't know the ANC any better, I would have said, no, you guys, man, this is an April Fool's joke. You can't be serious. How can you have a constitution that says you have a right to life, but at the same time, we're not going to give you any measures to defend that life? You're on your own, buddy. Kry vir jou spies. Get yourself a hammer. Get yourself some kind of tool to defend yourself, but it's not going to be a gun, because guns are serious trouble. Guns are causing crime and all sorts of things. And now we see the utter nonsense that comes out in terms of statistics. There's a few YouTube videos and programs that I like to follow, and there's one fellow. He calls himself Morning Shot. I open up in the morning with listening to this guy's views, because he's got more brains. He's got more brains in his head than the entire ANC cabinet, because I don't know if you've listened to this guy. Just
no, I can't say I have. No.
It's worth it. Look at it. Morning Shot. This guy knows what he's talking about. Yeah. And he came out with this thing now that the Wits University had the study about gun violence and so on. And it's absolutely clear that Becky Shelley is barking up the totally wrong tree if he thinks that taking handguns away is going to solve the crime problem. It's not going to solve the crime problem. It's going to cause a major crime problem. In fact, it's going to cause genocide. Because if we're not put in a position where we can defend ourselves in this country, where criminals are 10, or how do they say, 10 a dozen, or whatever the case may be, then how on earth do they think with a police force that actually comes out, a police commissioner, and confess, say, sorry, I cannot fulfill my mandate? How can I mean, do these people actually have some kind of self-respect? The minute he said that, Richard, he should have stood up, put his cap or whatever they wear these days. I see his minister is a cowboy. He wears a cowboy hat. All he needs is a horse, and then he'll be a real cowboy. Is put his cap down and say, I resign as the commissioner of police because I can't do my job. Because that's really what he should do. I'm not even talking about the minister because, quite frankly, he doesn't know what he's doing. He's very good at controlling beaches. He's excellent in controlling beaches. In fact, if there's going to be an invasion in this country across the beach, I will send Sele right to the beach because he's very good on the beach. He will stop the American army on the beach. I promise you that guy's good on the beach.
But now tell me something. Okay, we have recognized and we've spoken about the fact that there is an ideological emergence happening, and that in order to bring about that ideological change, there are certain things that have to be done. Is this whole disarming of people, is it not part of the process of creating an environment of chaos where a state can then bring more draconian measures in place, like restricting your movements and and restricting your access to certain things? Is that not part of the process of creating a more dependent society and a more fearful society? Because at the end of the day, if we look at North Korea, I mean, a lot of what they've done over there is create a hunger society where everyone spends all their time looking for food, so they're unable to go against the top echelons. Is this not just part of a process to ensure that we're vulnerable? And shouldn't we start countering these movements instead of just reacting to them? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, you know, Richard, you are so right, and you're just such a nice guy. You say it so how can I say so correctly, politically correctly, if I can put it that way. And I am more that bull in a china shop where I come in and say, this is absolute crap. You know, let's change the system, or let's do that. Let's take some action now. In that sense, you are absolutely right as far as the whole process of disarming is concerned. The disarming is all about making sure that you will be unarmed the day they come for your property. Now, if you are out there and you are listening to this broadcast today, and if you think that they're going to save your property just because you're a lefty or you're a liberal or you've done some good and you hugged some ANC guy at one stage, or you actually have a red beret somewhere there in the cupboard or so you are safe, you are so wrong. You are so pathetic. You are part of the target. Everybody is part of their target. If you're not part of their communist elite or communist regime or whatever, I don't mind what the color of your skin is. You can be white, black, colored, whatever color. If you're not part of their bigger plan and of their it's like the communist Korea that you're talking about, North Korea. If you're not part of that elite, or the KGB in Russia in those days, you are a target. You are a target, and they will take away your property, and you will be a slave for the rest of your life. And this is when I sat in that meeting at the ad hoc committee the other day, and I listened to all and everybody telling us about the problems, which we all obviously know, but unfortunately, not a single person comes up with a solution, except the solution seems to me like a magical wand. Oh, we have to sign some protest, or what do they call these things these days? I'm sick and tired of them coming across my desk. You have to sign this, some objection here and some that's not going to achieve anything. You know, and I know that I don't think they even open those things. I don't even think they read it. They, well, sometimes I think they can't read it. I read one this morning that somebody sent to me and say, Albert, can you just read through this thing and see it's okay if we send out this thing? I read it and I said, it's wonderfully written and it makes a lot of sense. But, nobody's going to read it. These people will just do whatever they want to do and they carry on. And this is where, and what you just hinted at just there. And when Stein van Ronge, the leader of the AWB, and myself spoke, we both said is that for anybody to go and to submit their guns, to hand over their guns to the police in the light of what is happening now, or if they go ahead with this act, it cannot stand constitutionally, and I have to elaborate on that. I'm going to show you just an extract from a judgment from the Constitutional Court, why I say it cannot stand constitutionally, and why I say that owning a gun is a constitutional right, although it's not printed in words. Somebody commented on an opinion that I didn't say, Albert, isn't there some law somewhere that says you're entitled to have a gun? I said, there's no such law, otherwise I would have quoted it. There is no such law, but there is constitutional court case and ratio decidendi, which is the basis of as you know, the basis of a judgment where the court it says it is your right to defend yourself.
Yeah.
In fact, I have to read this little passage for you from Judge Kruger, Krichler, judgment. I'm sure you have read it in your life, but I know many listeners and many viewers have never heard about it because they've been lied to most of the time. If I can just read this one clips for you. The confusion came when the Constitutional Court ruled that Section 49(2) of the Criminal Procedure Act was unconstitutional and that the police were not allowed to shoot anybody that flees from possible attempt to have them arrested. Now, that judgment all of a sudden was used by the police to say, oh, you're not allowed to shoot anybody, which is utter nonsense. I challenged the police on occasion on a radio program and said, well, coming to debate with me, and let's debate this thing on open TV and get all your professors and all your legal guys, and let's go into the law, and then we'll see what the truth is. I actually attempted to get such an interview with the police. They do not respond. Now, if you hear what Judge Krichler is saying in the judgment of Walters, it's a state versus Walters. That was the one where Section 49(2) was declared unconstitutional.
Yeah.
He says, it should also be noted, it's paragraph 33, it should also be noted that we are not concerned here with a weighing up of competing rights to bodily integrity, dignity, and life in the context of self-defense or the protection of the life or safety of someone else.
Yeah.
The principle, here's the key. Richard, you got to listen very careful to the words here, and viewers, listen to the words here that the constitutional judge is using, and all the other judges agreed with him. So this is the law. It says the principle of private defense are not in issue in this case. Section 49 is not directed at the right to defend oneself or someone else against the threat of harm. That right is not challenged in this case, nor is it addressed in his judgment. In other words, they make it clear that is something different. And then they go further, and this is very critical, where he says the following. I don't know if you've ever read the Van Wyk, you must have read the Van Wyk case, in Ray Van Wyk, State versus Van Wyk, the 1967 case, where Van Wyk was a guy somewhere in the country up north that had a little shop near a township, and they raided his shop every single weekend, and he got fed up, and he then went out and he published, and he sent little notes out in the public, and he put up notices on his outside his building, and he said, "I am planting a gun in the shop. If you come in here, that gun is going to shoot you." Am I back there, Richard? Okay. Any case, Van Wyk then put up a gun in his shop, and the very first weekend that he put up his gun in the shop. All right. Can you hear me now? Okay. All right. I'm going to go back to. I'll go back to where Van Wyk was putting his gun. Van Wyk put up a shotgun in his shop, and after putting out notices and warning people, listen, if you come to my shop again, you can get shot. The very first weekend after he put his gun up, somebody came through the window and got killed in the process with the gun that went off. Okay. Now, that case went to the SCA, and Judge Rumpf and Judge Steyn was the Chief Justice at the time, both said, Rumpf used the word, if a man with a burning torch runs towards your thatched roof house, and there's no other way that you can stop him than to shoot him through the heart, then you shoot him through the heart. Hy sê nie skiet hom deur die knie nie. It's not through the knee or through the arm or through the this or the that. Through the heart. You kill him. That is our law. And that is still the highest law considered in this country today. The Constitutional Court has not overruled or overturned the Van Wyk issue. And that is important, Richard. And in this judgment of Walters, the court actually say the following, referring to the Van Wyk case, by the way. It says, the principle of self-defense is recognized by all legal systems, where a choice has to be made between the lives of two or more people. The life of the innocent is given preference over the life of the aggressor. That is extremely important, because this whole nonsense about, the Constitution is now placing the right to life right at the top. That's fine, yes. But the same constitutional judges are saying the life of the righteous is more precious than the right of the crook or that guy that comes through your fence or come through your door to come and kill you or come and rob you. It carries on, he says, to deny the innocent person the right to act in self-defense would deny to that individual his or her right to life.
But is it not?
That
just
sent,
to interject here.
Say again.
Just to interject here, is it not true, however, that the liberal notion that talks about the right to life says that all have an equal right to life, and therefore you have to safeguard the right of the right to life of the criminal as well? I think that was the whole notion of why the ruling was made against the police. But is there not a dilemma in that situation?
No,
where
Richard,
you do tend to give the right to life a blanket authority that denies the reality of life?
Richard, I want to repeat myself here. You know, as an advocate, sometimes we have to repeat ourselves, especially these days, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times for our point to be understood clearly. I am reading from the judgment I'm reading from a judgment where the Constitutional Court had ruled Section 49(2) unconstitutional. In other words, the police may not shoot a fleeing guy. But in the same judgment, the same judge, and I'm going to read this again because every person in the country must hear the words that is, because I'm going to elaborate upon this just now. It says, self-defense is recognized by all legal systems. I'm reading from that judgment. Where a choice has to be made between the lives of two or more people. the life of the innocent is given preference over the life of the aggressor. That is our constitutional law.
Yes.
That's not my law. That's not Murphy's law. This is the constitution of this is the constitutional court of this country saying that the life of the innocent, the innocent, the innocent is that person sitting in his house, that person sitting on his farm like I do, and that are being attacked. You kill them when they come to your farm and they want to attack you. Because your life, you are the innocent. Your life is more important in terms of our constitutional law. So don't let anybody give you any other crap, because this is the law. It hasn't changed. In fact, I want to read further here, because this is very, very important. It says, the same is true where lethal force is used against the hostage taker or taker who threatens the life of the hostage. It is permissible to kill the hostage taker to save the life of the innocent hostage, but only if the hostage is in real danger. The law solves problems such as these through the doctrine of proportionality. I'm going to talk about that now. Balancing the rights of the aggressor against the rights of the victim, and favoring the life or lives of innocents over the life or lives of the guilty. That's our law. And then, you know what's interesting here, Richard? At that very point in the judgment, there's a footnote number 66. And you know what is footnote number 66? The Constitutional Court referring to the Van Wyk case and saying, self-defense is treated in our law as a species of private defense. It is not necessary for the purposes of this judgment to examine the limits of private defense. Until now, our law has allowed killing in defense of life, but also has allowed killing in defense of property or other legitimate interest in circumstances where it is reasonable and necessary to do so. And then the Constitutional Court refers to ex parte die minister van Justisie in Ray State versus Van Wyk 1967-1 SA 488 Appellate Division. Richard, that takes away any argument that you cannot shoot or kill somebody that wants to burn your house down or burn your business down or wants to burn your truck down. But there is the one proviso, and the proviso is proportionality. You're not going to kill somebody because hy wil jou ouma se ring steel. You don't do that. You've got to put value to what it is that the person wants to destroy or wants to steal, or whatever the case may be. If I have a fancy Merc and a guy wants to steal it, but my Merc is insured, I would say I don't think it's justified to kill the guy, because the insurance company can replace it. But if that happens to be my only transport, if that happens to be uninsured, yes, then I will kill him, because how must I then walk or go to the hospital, or how must I get on in life? And that is that Maconiana.
Advocate Murphy, I just want to ask you a question. Our law states that we have to follow international law as well. Okay, our constitution is very specific on that. And we know that there are many international norms that have been created, especially in countries like Canada and a lot of European countries, where they say property cannot compare to life. And you're not allowed to take life in order to protect property. I think in Canada, they even went so far as if a person breaks into your house, you're not even allowed to beat him up to protect your property. What do we do if let's say you do take the steps that you've suggested and you do protect property? How can we ensure that the judges that are sitting judging these matters are not going to take up those precedences and utilize those precedences, especially a more liberal-oriented judge, to make decisions that could go against you, should you follow the route that you're saying?
I hear what you're saying, but you are wrong in the sense that Canadian law doesn't apply in our country. I mean, they drive on the right-hand side of the road. We don't. We drive on the left-hand side. So this is a constitutional judgment. That's the highest court in this country that made this decision. The highest court in this country is the Constitutional Court for constitutional matters.
Yeah.
In this particular case, to this moment, the issue about defense of killing in defense of your property had not been decided in a specific case other than the Constitutional Court referring to the Van Wyk case here with approval. And you know how it works. If a court refer with approval to another court's judgment, then that judgment, and in this case, the Van Wyk judgment, that's our applicable law. I don't care what the law is in Canada. I can't advise my clients about the law in Canada or the law in America. In any case, those places seems to be so screwed up these days. I think they're more screwed up than us. So our law and our courts are controlled by our law, which is in that specific instance is contained in the judgment of Walters. Anybody can go and read it. The judgment was heard, the case was heard on the 15th of November 2001. It was decided on the 21st of May 2002 under case number CCT 28 of 01. So that is the law that applies in this country. I don't have to go and search in some other liberal whatever country, wherever in the world, and especially not Canada, for our law. And no judge in this country, no judge can come and now tell me, oh, no, Mr. Murphy, no, you were wrong. That's not our law. You know, in Canada, they do that. I would say, my lord, the stare decisis principle bound you to this judgment. And you know the interesting thing, Richard, if you go further in this particular judgment, it's very interesting. And there must be a reason for it. The judges, and Krichler in specific, actually goes in to describe and to give elaborate upon the issue of the stare decisis principle. In paragraph 57, they tell you exactly what the doctrine of the stare decisis principle is. And that doctrine says that all lower courts are bound to the higher court, to the highest court, which is the Constitutional Court as far as constitutional matters are concerned, and the SCA as far as other matters are concerned. Now, in this one judgment about this issue of self-defense and killing somebody that attacks you, and your life being more valuable than the attacker's life, that there is no higher law. That is, even the Constitutional Court, Richard, is bound by this judgment because it's their judgment. And the Constitutional Court, will have to go back and now go and sit there and say, well, all 10 of us was wrong. We were wrong. And therefore, we have to change it. And then they must change it. And then they can't do it retrospectively. Because as we sit here, and a farmer is attacked somewhere in the country, I'm telling you guys, shoot them, kill them, because you're allowed to do it. You're the innocent. Yes, the police will come and arrest you because they know nothing about the law. The police is useless. The police is corrupt. And we have to say it. We shouldn't be scared of saying it. I'm not scared of saying it. You see, the truth will set you free. This perpetua this mailband, whatever you call it, this mailband law, is so unconstitutional. It boggles my mind. And this is why I'm saying to myself, do we actually still have a constitution? Because it's not only Section 25 that they're changing, they are changing the entire constitution. They're taking your right to free speech away. They're taking your right to free association away. They want to lock up the churches. They want to mailband the churches. You can't preach the gospel of Jesus Christ anymore. No, man. No, I'm telling you, I get so mad. I just want to go out there and now grab a Bible and go and stand in the corner and right in front of Parliament and shout out, repent, convert yourself, get yourself baptized and stop your nonsense. You're all going straight to hell. But then, of course, you know, people already say I'm
That
funny.
would be considered hate speech.
Yes, of course. It'll be hate speech. But Richard, I'll go to the Constitution Court.
Advocate,
I'll spend the rest of my life fighting these guys because on their own Constitution.
But now, Advocate, you're an advocate. You've got all the knowledge of the law and everything like that behind you. How does a simple layman on the street, how does he react to these things? Because these are weighty issues, and at the end of the day, nobody wants to sit in a court of law for the next 5 years defending himself because he's been charged with murder. What should we as citizens be doing in order to ensure that when these, what you're calling bogus laws, because when the minister says that you're no longer allowed to defend yourself, and we know that goes against the very principles of freedom, the basic tenets of freedom, the right to defend yourself against tyranny and all these sort of things. How do we as citizens make sure that we go against these things and we don't allow these things to happen? At the end of the day, that's the most important thing, that we don't allow the evil to abound. That age-old saying of all it takes for evil to abound is for good men to do nothing. So assist us. How do we make sure that we don't allow evil to abound?
Richard, I know I am not the only advocate in this country that has really studied this judgment. I know many of them hasn't done it. I know many lawyers don't read judgments completely. They will take that summary sentence up there that, and then they'll say, "Oh, held. Yeah, fine. That was the judgment all about."
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm telling you, any advocate worth his salt that studies the Walters case will come up with the same conclusion. You cannot come, this is plain English, you cannot come with a different conclusion. This is the law of this country. So if that's the law, yes, you're right, the police will arrest a guy. That case against that guy shouldn't last as long as unfortunately as these cases do, because if lawyers would come up immediately up front with the real law as it is and present it to the courts, because unfortunately there are many courts, many of the lower courts, that doesn't understand the law as well. With all due respect, they haven't read these judgments. In fact, they find difficulty in interpreting them for a million other reasons. But that's a fact. But the question is, and the issue is really, what should happen is farmers and farmers associations should join hands. If one of their neighbors is arrested because he shot somebody that attacked him under circumstances where he was entitled to defend himself, they should all club in. Don't let one guy become the victim and lose all his property. Club in. Get yourself decent lawyers. There's some excellent lawyers in this country, excellent ones. And get yourself some decent attorneys and advocates that will defend your case. And it's becoming more and more clear with the cases against the police, with malicious prosecution and prosecutions that shouldn't have taken place, that damages claims are coming in. The police are spending more money nowadays on damages claims than they are spending on buying new vehicles. So because of the fact that they are not implementing the law as it is, this law should be published very clearly so that even the criminals know that you go into a guy's house, he will be able and he will be entitled to kill you. But now, of course, what they want to do is to take our guns away. So how would you kill the guy? Gaan ons almal nou vir ons byle koop. We're going to all run around with knopkitties. I suppose then we're going to wear Tarzan costumes and things like that and shout, oh, whatever. really become primitive again. It is so ridiculous, Richard, that I cannot imagine that a country as that was advanced as this one was before the ANC destroyed it, that can allow this nonsense to happen. I just cannot imagine that it can happen, but yet it happens. And then, you know, the real frustrating issue is this: there are actually people that say, "Oh no, no, no! You know, it's a good thing. We must take guns away." They are just plain morons. They don't know what they're talking about. In a country like this, take your guns away. You must be out of your mind. There are more illegal guns in this country than legal ones. So how are you going to deal with that?
Now, do you agree that obviously we have a major crime pandemic in this country? I think at one stage we were looking at murder rates in excess of 30,000 a year and those sort of things. I mean, a state can't even think of disarming you while there is that paradigm in place in any case. Don't you think that people should be standing up against the minister that wants to make statements like you're not allowed to defend yourself? Shouldn't there be outrage for these things? And shouldn't we be shouting it out, like you said, shouting it out from the rooftops to say, if you make outrageous statements like that, then we're not going to listen to you? Because at the end of the day, I mean, is he not showing his true colors? That he approves of a violent society? I don't know. You know, to me, when you come up with a solution that punishes the innocent and it allows the perpetrator to do even more, you're supporting the perpetrator. You're not supporting the poor person that's sitting in his house that is innocent to this whole situation. Is that not the case? And shouldn't we be saying things like that?
Richard, we should actually be on the street every day of our lives with like the Black Sash used to do way back in the old days. I remember when I was a young prosecutor, in Joburg, I bumped into the Black Sash every morning on my way to the court. We should be out there to protest. We should be out there to object. Yes, we should already start preparing our papers for taking this whole issue of the gun control to the Constitutional Court, and based upon their judgment, to remind the constitutional judges, because this is now 20 years later, is, hey guys, you made this ruling 20 years ago. Are we still standing with your ruling? Is that still the law in this country? Because if that's the law, how do you now justify taking somebody's gun away if you have said that his life is more valuable than the life of the attacker? Because the attacker is not going to give his gun in. I do not think for one moment that the gangsters in Mitchell's Plain and wherever they are here in the Cape Flats and all over the country, that they're going to give in their guns. They're not going to give in their guns. They're not crazy. That's the thing that protects them. That gives them power. And they're going to assert that power that they're now doing in the gangster values. They will do it all over the country because nobody will be able to defend themselves. I mean, the ridiculous thing that I saw in the week was in California, when people just walk into a shop and just strip the shop from all its goods because the government had ruled that they're not allowed to go up against these people. It's crazy. It's madness. It's absolute madness. The world has gone mad. The world has really gone mad. And we, like you said, the normal people, we should stand up and say, stop this nonsense. Stop this nonsense.
But now you touched on something which is quite important over there, I think. I mean, we have gun manufacturing entities. I mean, the gun manufacturers, why are they not going to the Constitutional Court and reminding them of the fact that there is a right for people to protect themselves, and that what the government is doing with this whole notion, I mean, we have the right to the Constitutional Court has a right to declare any acts unconstitutional. And if the Constitutional Court has given you the right to self-defense, and it can and you can prove that there are illegal guns out there that are being utilized in crimes and everything like that, should not the gun manufacturers be taking these matters to a Constitutional Court to protect their customers at the end of the day? Is that not perhaps one of the remedies that we should be looking at?
Richard, I tell you what, I thought at one stage we should preempt this move of the minister. We should preempt that,
Yeah.
and perhaps go to the Constitutional Court directly, approach the court directly. But if you study the constitutional judgment, you'll see the constitutional judges doesn't like that. They don't like that. They would rather wait and get a lower court, perhaps like a full bench or even the SCA, make some kind of a ruling that they will then come and say, all right, we agree or we don't agree. But they do say that in the few cases that I've read where people have gone straight to the Constitutional Court, the justices said, we do not have the benefit of a lower court having a view at the issues here. So, and they're not really a court of first instance. They are a court of appeal. They're a court that first of all look at other courts' judgment, and then they'll come and make the constitutional deal with the constitutional issue. So I think it'll be jumping the gun to do that. But what needs to be happen at the moment is, and I said it in my opinion that I handed out at the ad hoc committee, I said AfriForum or whoever, the organizations that are being paid a lot of money to present the cases of the public should start preparing their papers for a constitutional challenge. So if the minister comes with this ridiculous act and somehow it passes the president's desk, now in my view, it shouldn't even pass the president's desk. It should stop with Cyril Ramaphosa, and he can then say, no. The president must say, I would want the Constitutional Court to rule upon this issue. The president can do that. He can do that. He doesn't have to go to some other court. So the president can, in terms of the Constitution, he can refer an act back to Constitutional Court to make a ruling. So that's really what should happen. But now, knowing that this whole thing is actually part of their communist agenda, this president is not going to do it. So yes, we have to be prepared. The minute that act hits the papers, the next day, an application should be made to the nearest court to hear this issue, to get the ball rolling, so that people don't go and hand their guns like fools. Because believe me, if you go in and hand over your gun, you are sacrificing your family, sir. You are sacrificing your children. You are sacrificing your neighbor. You are sacrificing everybody around you. Because the only thing that stands between us and tyranny at this moment is our guns. And you're not going to take it away from us. You're not going to take it away from us. And I think I speak on behalf of hundreds of thousands of people in this country when I say that to the government today, here in this interview. You are not going to take our guns away. You have a second thought on that issue. You'll have blood on your hands, lots of blood, because we are not going to be Jews led to the slaughter camps by Hitler, or Russians led to be killed. I think 16 million of them by Stalin, and Mao Zedong that killed 32 million Chinese. We are not going to be those statistics. If we're going to die, it's going to be with our guns in our hands. And that I can say, and I think I speak on behalf of hundreds of thousands of gun owners in this country.
Advocate Murphy, I want to say thank you very much for an absolutely interesting debate, and I think a very poignant debate at this time. I think we live within a very violent society, one of the most violent societies in the world, actually. When we look at the statistics of crime in South Africa, and especially the statistics on murder in South Africa, our murder rate is comparative to many countries that are at war. And I think that we are definitely living in a time where there's an ideological change that is pushing an agenda, and it has no inclination on the reality of what is happening, and may even be the cause of what is happening, because these murder rates have shot up since the communist regime has taken over. And I think it's very important, as we've heard today, that we as general citizens, as the simple man on the street, need to start taking more account of our environment, and need to start moving in a direction where we have more of an influence on what is happening to us. Instead of becoming sheep following a direction, we need to take control of our own destinies and make sure that what is happening to us is not to the detriment of, as you said, ourselves and the next generation, our children. I want to thank you very much for the insight that you gave us today, and I hope that we can, in the future, once again talk, maybe not just on the gun issue, but on many other issues that are emerging in this country. But I want to thank you for the time that you've given us today, and I look forward to the next time. And good night, and we'll see you again in the future. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Richard. Thanks, viewers. Thanks, Kurt, for airing us. And yeah, I just hope people start getting backbones and start standing up. And join hands. People should join hands and say, listen,
agreed.
This is not
this is not a white issue. This is an issue, I think, that goes across the board. We're all suffering the consequences of a violent society.
Absolutely.
And our ability to defend ourselves is being taken away. But thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thanks, Richard.